I need to do talking about space. I need to
I
talk about
need
space.
I have a need for space.
Yeah.
Space
See,
is no, that doesn't work.
to the left of me, I have a bunch of Legos, and above me is where we keep the suitcases on a nice big shelf. And I had to take a suitcase down today, and I dropped it on my Legos, and they exploded
Oh no.
everywhere.
Oh
I need to
no.
talk. I need to talk space. I need to talk space.
Well, let's talk space then. Welcome everyone to this week's episode of Things That Benjamin has dropped on his Legos. Sorry, this week's episode of The Nerd and the Scientist, presented to you by Science. Actually, I am one of the Nerd and the Scientist, Kovi Rose, and with me, as always, Benjamin Salas. Benjamin, how are you doing on this fine morning, evening, afternoon?
I was doing great until the suitcase thing, and then I was sad. I was so sad, and then I s- I started talking to you, and now I feel better.
I am happy to have made your day / evening a little bit
Once you
better.
have a way to break more of my Legos, then I'll be sad again.
Oh my gosh, Legos are the best. I'm actually very pleased to say that my partner got me a new Lego set for my birthday, which is the Discovery Shuttle and the Hubble Space Telescope that goes inside it. Both a wonderful bonding activity and also space
I
Lego.
love that set.
Ah!
I have that set, and that set luckily is far away another part of the house, nowhere near suitcases.
No spoilers. Don't tell me what it'll look like when I finish building it. I
It's
want to be
gonna look
surprised.
like a tree.
Ah, damn it.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's a good piece. What I like about it, um, it's got some interesting surprise pieces and stuff for it. I won't say anything about those, but the bit of Hubble, actually has the rarely used shiny metallic silver and golden parts to it.
Ooh.
So you don't get those pieces very often in many sets, and it's nice to have those shiny bits.
Speaking of shiny bits on space missions, what are we talking about today, Benjamin?
I stumbled into my own little segue. This episode is our episode on golden records. Um, we had the idea to talk about um, the I don't know the messages that we have sent out into the cosmos that have hitched a ride on our various little satellites and missions that we sent out into the universe. Our little hopeful, optimistic wishes for the future. And so I call this our Golden Records episode because most famously, um, we have two satellites that were sent out in 1977, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2. And it was decided by NASA and poetically by Carl Sagan and his colleague Frank Drake to put a kind of message in a bottle on these uh, satellites as they are going to eventually leave the solar system and head out to parts unknown. And so we have
And,
these two golden records.
and Frank Drake, that's the guy who did all the equations, right?
Yes. Very smart dude.
So these records, speaking of equations and math, how far away are these records currently? Or how fast are they going, right?
They are the two fastest moving well, not anymore. They were for a long while. The two fastest man-made objects in history. Now we have the Parker Solar Probe, which is by far the fastest thing we ever made. But it's going to die by careening into the sun eventually. And then Voyager 1 and 2 will once again be the fastest things we've ever made. I don't have the speed in front of me. You think I would have written that down. But no, they have left the solar system,
Hmm.
and in what, somewhat less than 50 years. And if you take into account how incredibly massive the solar system is, that's pretty gosh darn fast. And they are carrying two records, and the records are not solid gold, as a lot of people think. They are not.
Hmm.
They are, oh my gosh, I want to say they're aluminum, but they are coated in 24 karat gold, and they are encased in 24 karat gold, because pure gold is not going to rust, and it's not going to wither, and it's not going to fade. And in a vacuum, with nothing affecting it anyway, as the Voyager satellites tumble through space, they are each going to carry a very clean, bright gold spot on them, which will drive attention to any potential passersby. And on the records, we have sounds from Earth, sounds of different animals, sounds of the wind, sound of the water, sounds of airplanes, sounds of rocket launches. We have the recordings of heartbeats and brain waves. We have greetings from 55 different cultures around the world, ranging from Carl Sagan's own kid, greetings from the children of Earth, I think he said, to
Hmm.
I think there's a greeting in Korean that says, "Hello, great ones. Are you hungry? Have you eaten yet?" It's like a very simple, homey, like welcome home type of message, and they're out there.
I have a dumb question.
No,
These sounds, which it's definitely a really cool collection of sounds that I know a lot of thought went into them, and what they would represent for humanity and to potentially any other intelligent civilization that would come across them. But are they stored on this record in grooves, in like the way that a traditional record stores sound?
yes, they are.
Hmm.
The record is not just there by itself. There is a round circle that's just a smooth surface, and engraved in it is a kind of map of where all the nearest pulsars are and
Oh
how
yeah,
far they
I've seen that
were
one.
from us. And it also has instructions to take the lid off. Inside, you'll find a golden record. And beneath that, you're going to find all the pieces you need and instructions. Uh, Picture instructions, clearly not like IKEA type instructions, just pictures, not like words, and and shows you how to put together the needle, and how you spin the record, and how you get information off of it that way. And there are sounds that way. If the alien species that comes across it, they hopefully will detect an underlying tone of other sounds that they can will learn is will help them. Blah blah blah. There's also little electronic signals buried underneath the sound of people talking, whatever. And in that is encoded images, and they can find out even more information from us. And it's a two-sided record, which is kind of cool.
I wonder if there was anybody at NASA who was maybe cheeky enough to encode something if the record's played backwards.
Well, you never know. The JPL are a sneaky bunch, and they like to sneak in little Easter eggs wherever they can. Just look at the Perseverance rover. That was something special. They snuck in all sorts of little signage on the rover itself. They put a special message encoded, hexadecimal message encoded in the parachute that brought it down.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's that's JPL for you. But before Voyager even went out, there was another satellite that went out with a message on it, and those were Pioneer 10 and 11. And that was in 1972 and 73. And once again, Carl Sagan and Frank Drake were responsible for this little message that was on there. and they got a lot of heat for it. They put on there another pulsar map, 14 pulsars, the directions where they are from us and how far away they are from us, and also a picture of a man and a woman from the front, nude. It's just a
Hmm.
very basic sketch, a very basic outline, and they caught a lot of hell for sending pornography into space, which, if you look it up, it's the furthest thing from pornography. It's just a very basic anatomical sketch of what we are and waving hello, and that's it. But that is one of the first messages that we sent out, basically saying, this is who we are, and hello, this is where we are.
I kind of love that pulsars are these really great like universal signposts, right? Because we know where they are and we know what rate they're rotating at. I mean, what's interesting, especially, is the fact that nowadays we know of over 3,000 pulsars, and I think back in the 60s and 70s we knew of significantly fewer. Most of that work on discovering them was done in the probably 80s, 90s, and since then by I think a lot of Australian radio astronomers actually. But it's a super cool way of like navigating through the local universe. I think the other thing that's particularly interesting is to consider like not just because if you think about my question before, yeah, fine, like they're not necessarily going to understand everything in the way that we intend them to, but at the very least, I think all of these things um, are designed to spark curiosity and a desire to engage with any intelligent life form that would potentially interact with it, right? So it's like,
Right.
um, hey Bob, we found this disc, you see, and this disc has like figures of some like weird naked thing on it. We don't know
They
what it
only have
is,
two
or like,
arms. Can you believe it?
yeah, right? Isn't that crazy? They only have like apparently two genders. That's so weird.
I don't
And like a
get it.
pulsar map, so like you know that they're intelligent. Also, like it's a perfect disk, so they know that this isn't something that formed, or it's unlikely to have been something that formed accidentally. So,
Mhm.
um, yeah, I think it's super cool.
Yeah.
It's also
Uh,
technically 4 records
Four.
because it's the 2 records, plus it's also the fastest thing and the furthest thing.
That is a series of records. And double, that a double entendre? Yes.
I think so. Yeah, it's
Uh,
a homophone, homonym, hom,
Homonym. Homonym.
homonym.
I just think of
Sorry.
Dr.
Yes.
Evil trying to say homonym. It's great. We also have a special message that was sent out from the Arecibo radio telescope in Puerto Rico in 1974. We aimed it towards the globular cluster M13, and this is big, long 1980 style, like 8-bit video game type of image of a human being standing with one hand up and one hand down, and it has a great pattern of uh, numbers that are prime numbers. So these cannot be randomly generated in nature. This is something that's done intentionally. And if you dig deeper into the message, it also sends out little notes explaining our understanding of the periodic table of elements. And it goes further to explain our solar system, how there is a star. There is at the time 9 planets, thank you, and which one of those planets we're on, and a bunch of other stuff like the sign of our symbol of our DNA, so they can understand our genetic makeup. Not entirely, because 8-bit certainly doesn't let you communicate our entire genome, but it gives you the idea of how we're structured. And so that information has been sent out. That was actually quite cool. I think it was a one and only time Arecibo was used to send a message. The rest of its life, it was receiving only. So
Hmm.
that was actually a very cool thing.
Impressive. Do we have time for a quick ad before we continue?
Heck yeah.
Amazing. Hey, Benjamin, are you tired of the same old pen pals from your planet?
Absolutely.
Do you want to spice up your correspondence with some out of this world friends?
Yes, do I ever?
Well, you're in luck, because today we're introducing Interstellar Pen Pals. With Interstellar Pen Pals, you can exchange letters with beings from all across the galaxy. Our easy to use service connects you with extraterrestrial buddies who are just dying to share their alien adventures. And don't worry about the postage, it's included in our intergalactic package. Hear about Zog's zero gravity gardening tips or Blip's light speed baking recipes. You'll never look at Earth the same way again. So why stick to boring Earth letters when you can have pen pals from a galaxy far, far away? Visit Interstellar Pen Pals today to start your interplanetary friendship adventure. Interstellar Pen Pals, bringing the galaxy to your mailbox.
I love it. I've always wanted to cook at the speed of light. I'd be done already.
I'd be done already.
Or if you set it to high, you were done yesterday.
Oh, this was another great ad that was drafted by ChatGPT that I really have to start proofreading closely before I read them.
No, that was golden. I love it.
God, that's great. I do love this idea though that like you would have to have light speed or faster than light speed communication because like with the Arecibo message, you said it was sent to M13, right?
Right.
So so that's like over 20,000 light years away. So assuming that they receive it um, and immediately reply saying, "Hey, this is so cool. It reminds me of this Atari game I used to have." And they send that message back to us right away. Um, it'll be another 40,000 years before we get that reply.
Yeah.
Like best case scenario.
Yeah, but we get a message back in 40,000 years from people who just played with Atari level games 20,000 years ago. So therefore we'd know we're 20,000 years ahead of them. That's awesome. That's awesome.
I
Right?
love it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The math is mathing. It makes sense.
Ugh.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely a lot more of this sort of thinking. Also, like kind of in our cultural awareness when we look at shows like the Three Body Problem. I'm not sure if you've seen it.
I loved
Um,
it.
it's great, right? I don't want to spoil anything, but there is definitely an aspect in there of understanding how we could the kind of the different timescales at which we would be communicating with potential aliens, and also the timescale at which they would potentially arrive at Earth. Those two things are vastly different, even for a fairly advanced civilization.
Uh, that, gosh, I would really like to get into it. But it's be so many spoilers. But that is something I really enjoyed about that show is timescales were taken into account. That in order to begin one major part of the storyline, they had to set the technological foundation in order to get that way. It took some time to set up this, to set up that, all within reasonable times, and then they were able to do the super extra sci-fi stuff, and it was I thought it was great. It was actually one of the few TV shows that actually kind of creeped me out. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, it's
I,
definitely
I
got
hope
the
there's a season 2.
So I've understood that there has been a commitment to do season 2 and 3, but
Mm.
we might be waiting, um, maybe not as long as we're waiting for the reply from the Arecibo message, but we might be waiting quite a while to get that, because they wanna they wanna do it right. But maybe once the, second season comes out, we can we can drop some spoilers and have a bit of an interesting discussion about season 1 because
There was a great
do
episode
highly
of
recommend.
Futurama based on exactly that. Have anyone seen Futurama? It takes place in the year 3000.
Mhm.
And there's this one alien species who has been enjoying uh, a TV show from the 90s
Oh,
that
yeah.
finally reached their home planet. And the TV show from the 90s, it ended in the middle of a season on a cliffhanger. And,
It was like Ally McBeal
and
or something, right?
something like Ally McBeal, exactly. And the alien species, who are 1,000 years away, they finally they're watching it and enjoying it. And the show is canceled for no reason. It's left on a cliffhanger, and they want to know what happens. So their response is to immediately invade Earth, just so they can find the ending. It sounds great. Talking
I love it.
anyway,
I
talking about
shuddered to
sending
think.
odd messages into space, like TV shows.
Yeah.
Um, Everything we've sent to Mars has a message on it. Everything. The Spirit and Opportunity rovers each carried a DVD, which
Mhm.
had our vision of Mars, um, what we hope to discover on Mars, and what we hope to settle on Mars or do with Mars. Lots of literature and art and greetings from prominent figures around the world that had, were Mars focused. Pictures of what we see used to be, what we theorize it used to be anyway, what we hope it's going to be. Um, the Curiosity rover has a plaque that features the signatures of people involved in the mission, a tribute to an American astronomer, Jacob Matijevich. If I said it wrong, I'm sorry, but whatever. And it also has a bunch of little microscopic things etched onto it, where people sent their names or some simple greetings, and then somehow, somewhere in NASA, where they could do all the incredible cool stuff, they engraved it in an incredibly small little thing and put it there. Um, the Mars Insight lander, the Perseverance rover, all of them have a microchip with millions of different signatures. NASA is very, very good using social media in this regard. They get people excited about upcoming missions and to follow it. And it's very simple and it's free all the time. Just submit your name or submit a message, and they'll send you or email you a little image with like your receipt or your ticket in some cases. And your note or sometimes your picture will be embedded in a small little USB drive or something that's going to go along for the ride. And so this is a huge way to get literally everybody on the planet involved in saying hello or just waving, and sending it off into who knows where.
I think for the next mission, we should have everybody share their favorite space-related joke and just have like a micro SD card with all of the punniest and corniest jokes in the world, literally, and just send that out into deep space.
I don't know. Some guy or alien's gonna get that joke, and he's that little billion space jokes, and he's gonna hear the first one, like laugh, and hear the second one and laugh, and then like about 1,000 jokes in, I've heard this one already, and there's a billion to go. What's wrong with these people?
It would be a great form of like psychological torture just to have um like a deep space network of speakers playing these jokes, um I don't know, in Morse code or something, and just having them at different distances from the earth, so as any invading alien species would get closer and closer, they're just hearing more and more of these jokes, and it would just be, you know, at the very least very confusing, or at the very most like annoying enough that they would just turn around and decide that Ally McBeal is not a good enough reason for them to invade us.
Right. Uh, gosh, that's a lot of jokes. The Rosette, the European Space Agency's Rosetta spacecraft. Speaking of a lot, that went to study comet. I'm going to say it wrong. So I say 67P, but it's Churyumov-Gerasimenko or something. Uh, it has a disc on it with information and scripts and greetings in 1,200 languages, which is, I didn't even
Wow.
know there were that many, but apparently there's considerably more. But they really went out of their way to get as many different recordings and as many different inscriptions from as many languages as they could. And they really knocked it out of the park. So that went to a comet, which is crazy.
That's the
And
comet that they landed on, right? There's that incredible footage of landing on this comet, and it just looks like it's a snowstorm next to
yeah,
a
like a
cliff.
snowstorm in a valley. That's what it looks like.
It's so cool.
It's incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Love it. What
Love
else have
it.
we sent to space?
What else we sent to space? Well, New
Message rights.
Horizons carried quite the payload to Pluto. It carried a small container of some, not all, some of the ashes of Clyde Tombaugh, who discovered
Mm.
Pluto.
Mm-hmm.
It also carried a digital copy of the names of almost 500,000 people.
Wow.
My name's on there. And it carried a U.S. flag. It carried a United States postage stamp, and it also carried. Well, I lost it. Well, it carried a couple other things, but it brought a variety of things to Pluto and
Mm-hmm.
past it. It's still rocketing out of here, and it's got someone's ashes. It's fantastic.
So Clyde Tombaugh was the discoverer of Pluto, and if I'm not mistaken, he had originally decided to call it George.
No.
Was I? Am I?
Uranus was originally discovered and referred called George.
Oh, it was Uranus. Okay.
Come on, have fun with it, Uranus.
Okay, fine.
Other things
Interesting.
that we've sent out into space. We just love sending stuff to space. Uh, the Kepler mission, another one of those missions that NASA got the public to participate in and send their names and send also their greetings and the send your name to Kepler campaign in 2009. So that's a DVD that's being held out there with the Kepler spacecraft. Um, Israel Bereshet spacecraft that was trying to
Mm.
land on the moon, but it crashed. If it still survived, if structurally anyway, it carried a 30 million page archive called the Lunar Library, and it has a huge array of human knowledge. The attempt was to kind of copy and paste Wikipedia, I guess you could say, into a flash drive or some sort of data storage device. So it
Hmm.
had not all of, but a large bulk of human knowledge just was carried there as well. So I thought that was quite fascinating. Um,
Wasn't
and
that? Wasn't
go
there
on.
also like a collection of tardigrades that somebody had smuggled onto that one?
Yes, yes, there was for that Bereshet mission. There was I don't think they intentionally put tardigrades on there. The I think it was just possibly an unclean environment, and when they got sent up, a tardigrade could have survived.
Hmm.
Who knows? Tardigrades just can't be stopped.
Yeah,
And
unstoppable.
not everything we send out into space is, you know, encapsulate that preservation of culture or has an olive branchy kind of effect. In 2008, when SpaceX tested its very first Falcon Heavy, they needed to test payload. And so Elon Musk said, okay, I'm going to put my own personal car on there and just send it off. The funny thing about that was when SpaceX announced and on Twitter that they're going to do it, and Elon Musk, retweeted it. What am I going to send up there? What should we send up there? And someone said, "Put your car." He said, "Okay." It was somebody's suggestion on Twitter, and he said, "All right, fine." So he put his personal, uh, was a Model S sports car or something, roadster.
I think so, yeah.
You put that in there.
Roadster, cherry red roadster.
Cherry red. Sitting in the driver's seat was a mannequin wearing the brand new uh, SpaceX spacesuit. The mannequin had earbuds, one in each ear, and they were actually playing. One ear was playing David Bowie's Starman. The other ear was playing David Bowie's Major Tom. And on top of that, in the glove box, there's a storage device containing a copy of Isaac Asimov's Foundation trilogy, and there's actually a paper cover, a hardcover, a hardback cover. I'm losing my words today. Whatever. There's an actual physical book of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe in the glove box. So a little whimsy going around and
Love
around
it.
and around between us and Mars.
There was also like on the dashboard or on like that screen, there was the "Don't Panic" logo from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy as well, right?
Right. It was there. It's just,
Oh,
it was great. It was a lot of fun. A lot of people actually didn't even know that was going to be there, except for the few people who actually loaded up the cargo. There was a big reveal because at the time, having a camera inside the fairing with your payload to record the fairings coming off was a very new thing. Now it's very common. And so when the fairing came off, just in timing with the music, which is because SpaceX can do whatever they want, and there was a guy sitting there. The music was playing, and the Earth was in the background, and "Don't Panic" on the dash. It was actually people were cheering and laughing. It was actually quite of a fun moment. It
it's
had the
very fun.
spaces for everybody kind of feel.
It's only slightly overshadowed by the moment when people started considering that there might be a person inside of that spacesuit. Dun dun dun.
One engineer that argued with Elon one time too many.
Oh man, that's probably the wackiest thing that we've sent to space, intentionally at least. I mean, there's that story of the I think it was a Ming Dynasty lord who was on this rocket chair. I think we've spoken about this before, but it was like, is this guy technically the first astronaut because he sat on a throne that was attached to, several hundred fireworks loaded up with gunpowder, and he was trying to fly, and he went from 0 to absolutely nowhere in 0.3 seconds, and he could potentially have been launched into orbit, but we don't know.
That'll be interesting to find out. I
That'd be
know
amazing.
that I did an article for Science, actually, check it out, of the top 10 fastest things ever created by human beings. And number one, what a lot of people don't know about because, well, we just don't really know, is a manhole cover. During the nuclear testing, I believe in the 60s, they were doing nuclear testing, at altitude, underwater, ground level, but they also did a lot of testing with burying nuclear weapons deep underground and seeing what would happen if we blew up a bomb underground, because that's useful. And so what they did is they dug a hole, very deep hole, placed the bomb at the bottom of the hole somewhere in the New Mexico desert, and then they covered the hole with a manhole cover. And the manhole cover is ridiculously thick and ridiculously heavy, something in the order of like 20 tons, and it's thick metal. And when they detonated the device, uh, you could see in the footage, if you play it back very slow and this is analyzed, scientists were wondering what's that dot moving straight up from the explosion. It was the manhole cover. It was there at the moment of detonation. A split second later, it was incredibly high, and then it was gone out of the field of view. So they did the math, and for something that big and that heavy going through our atmosphere at that speed, one of two things happened. It either evaporated before it ever made it to space because the friction alone would have just annihilated it, or if it did make it to space, um, it, there's nothing that could have possibly stopped it. If it manages to survive, the friction, the speed through the atmosphere would not be enough to slow it down to a stop, but it would be enough to make it disintegrate. If it made it through without melting completely and evaporating, the bits that were left would be quite possibly the first thing we sent into space and the fastest.
Not just the first thing that we sent into space, but also the first thing that we sent into interstellar space. Because from memory, this thing was moving at something like 6 times the escape velocity of Earth,
Mm-hmm.
and that's also would be enough to overcome the gravitational force of the solar system. So it would be gravitationally unbound by the solar system, and if it continued, it would just go into interstellar space.
Love that. So, on top of all the other messages of peace and kindness that we sent into space, a bit of our garbage is rocketing away. And
Oh man.
we not only just sent stuff to space, but we also have things that are proposed to go to space. We have a whole bunch of plans for something called the Starshot Project.
Mm-hmm.
Starshot
Yeah.
Project is this plan to just pepper shoot space with these little itty bitty tiny spacecraft, each containing something called a star chip, and each chip carries messages and data and other information that they deem suitable to put on it. Just messages from Earth. The idea is to send thousands of them in a single shot in some direction. I don't know which way, and who knows where they're going to hit. But the idea is to spread as much information as fast as we can in as many directions as we can. Boom. That's kind of a fun one.
It's a very cool concept, and it's something that came to mind when I was watching Three Body Problem. Again, we can discuss that once we're out of range of the kind of spoiler time period. But the technology that they're using here is it's relatively straightforward in theory, but then it poses some engineering questions in terms of feasibility, because they basically want to use these tiny solar sails attached to these star chips, and each of these sails would have a focused beam of intense um, laser radiation from Earth, basically accelerating this up to significant fractions of the speed of light, something like 20 or 30% of the speed of light. And so, assuming that you can even do that, once you do, this thing is, a wafer thin piece of solar sail, traveling through interstellar space, and it's very likely to get ripped to shreds by the first grain of sand that it encounters. So, somewhat of a challenge.
That's why he sent out 10,000 of them.
Yeah, exactly. I think they were planning on aiming at Alpha Centauri and kind of
Yes,
scatter shot in that
exactly.
direction.
There's another satellite that's been planned called the Kyo satellite, which is kind of a time capsule of sorts. The idea is send this thing into space with it coming back in 50,000 years. Why 50,000? The idea being it was 50,000 years since we first started drawing on caves. This will come back in the next 50,000 years. And there was a proposed launch date in 2003 and 2007, and on to 2019. It never got off the ground, but it's still a genuine project, and all the things that they want to send on this time capsule have already been gathered. And the
Mhm.
stuff that they've gathered is actually quite interesting. They've gathered air samples from all around the world. They've gathered water samples from all around the world and from different oceans. They've gathered earth samples. They've gathered um, they got a single drop of human blood in a little diamond case. So the
Hmm.
blood is preserved. I'm sure it's dried out or whatever, but it's in there. And on the diamond case is engraved uh, the DNA of the human genome. And there's also photos of people and places and cultures. And it's kind of like what Israel's Bereshet spacecraft had, another kind of copy and paste of the Wikipedia of humanity, everything we know at the moment. It's all embedded in some storage device, and it's all there, ready to roll. And I think that actually be kind of fun to send out. I think it's worth the effort, even if it's not going to
Yeah.
go do science or go anywhere. It's because the idea is for it to come back in 50,000 years. I think that's actually kind of a nice time capsule.
Yeah, it's a really cool time capsule. And speaking of time, it looks like we are just about out of time for this week's episode, unfortunately. Benjamin, if people want to find you on the interwebs and hear more about these incredible scientific facts and find the cool memes, the dank memes, as the kids would say, that you're posting, where could they find you?
Everybody, you can find me under the name of Science Actually, primarily on Facebook, but also on, oh, let's just rattle them off. Threads, TikTok, Mastodon, Instagram, Hive, did I say Twitter? Twitter, LinkedIn, and we're also broadcasting these wonderful episodes on TikTok and YouTube. So please look for Science Actually. Tell your friends. Have a good time. How about you, Kavi? Where are you?
I'm in Sydney. Next question.
Okay, Kavi. What is your credit card number and your government
3,
issued ID number?
4. Oh no.
4. Okay, we got him. We got him. It's 4.
It's 4. Damn it! Now everybody knows. You can find me on the interwebs, on all of the good social media platforms, and also the bad ones, at Fun Fact Science, or by searching Fun Fact Science with Kovi. Um, I would definitely follow Benjamin's advice and try to check us out on the Clock app or on YouTube, so that you could actually see our faces and all of the awkward angles that my camera seems to get. All the different backgrounds. No, Benjamin, you look great. Benjamin has this wonderful background every time. He's well lit and well kept, and for me, it's kind of whatever quiet room at my university I happen to find on that particular day, or wherever I'm traveling. So yes, check us out on the YouTubes. Download us, have a listen, have a watch, and let us know what you want to hear from us. And we will see you next time on Science Actually Presents The Nerd and the Scientist.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for listening.